objections?
We should get one of those things.
I know, with the clapper. Yeah, those are so obnoxious. Okay, so we're back at Real Moms of Real Estate. So what do we got going on today, guys?
I think we're talking about the dog days of summer today.
As you sigh heavily.
I know. I think a couple of us at this table are just over it already today. So
Probably mostly the pregnant one.
yeah, we haven't had
Hot everything.
Yeah.
It is hot, everything. And that market's exhausting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
market.
It is exhausting.
Didn't someone mention last week, like, our market's still the hottest in
The country.
the U.S.?
Yeah, there was
Selling?
a snippet thing in the Cincinnati Business Courier that, according to Zillow, the powers that be at Zillow, we are the fastest moving
Which is
market
crazy.
in the country, which is bizarre. I mean, why?
Right. That's what I.
That's what I wonder. I'm like,
no. Like,
I
is
mean,
there
it's a
direct
cool
correlation
town and
to
everything.
business coming in, or
It's
don't
like,
know.
relatively speaking, our city is still, like, less expensive than most big cities, but we still have, like, a ton of the amenities of other big cities.
Right.
So now that a lot of people work remote, they're like, why would I live in New York paying this much when I can have a whole house in Cincinnati?
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it's true. I was actually talking to my brother. We went, we took my dad, they took me. Anyway, we all went fishing for Father's Day. We were in the boat together. And my brother works with one of the local dealerships here. And they were saying, because he tracks how many cars are selling. And he was saying the same thing about the car market here, is the housing market, is that we don't get the super high highs. So, but they'll move cars like when other markets, have got just inventory just sitting, which I think is interesting. I mean, I think it's a diverse economic, background system.
Yeah.
A lot of business in here, so.
I feel like I have written more offers that have been rejected, overlooked, like 15, 20, 40,000 over ask, and they don't even get a look.
Yeah.
More this summer, for the last 3 or 4 months, than in my entire time.
It's maddeningly
Yeah.
frustrating.
And even with appraisal gaps and
Right.
waiving inspections. Yeah. I mean, it's tough.
It's honestly so discouraging too, like having to call your buyers over and over again and have the same okay guys, this one wasn't meant to be, but just having to rip the Band-Aid off there never gets easier, no matter how many times you have to call them.
Or maintaining expectations, trying to keep them from starting to offer more on things that maybe don't,
Right. Keep them from
deserve it.
jumping
But
off
when
the
you
ledge.
lose out on something 10 times, you start to get a little crazy.
Get a little
Yeah.
desperate too.
Or you decide that you're over it altogether, which also it's just a lose-lose for everybody, honestly.
What are the conversations you guys are having with buyers that are stick a fork in it? How do you keep them in the game? Because I think that's hard.
I think you just have to be pretty real with them. And it's something you kind of have to start before you even actually ever step foot in a house. You have to have some type of conversation before you even actually start looking, unfortunately, these days.
Mm-hmm. I try to hit their pain points. So, you don't want to keep renting. Those rental prices are continuing to increase.
Right.
That, and then I also try to really see their expectations of the process. Because if they're wanting the 6-bedroom, 4-bath with the pool, 6-car garage, the unicorn house that maybe comes up once or twice a year, that's not going to be as realistic as finding a 3-bedroom, 2-bath,
Right.
something like that. So trying to figure out where they land, so I can at least kind of keep them in reality.
Yeah, you may not get everything on your list. Conversation is hard.
Yeah. And I think having a really clear understanding of their financial situation going into the process, because we just had a situation where a client, she ended up, deciding to rent for another year. And for that particular situation, in today's market, for her, it probably made sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, for her to wait 6 months. I think she signed a 6-month lease. So we had that conversation, find something less than you're paying now, put more money away. The market might
Right.
look different in 6 months where you're actually in a better position to be competitive. Because even we were saying with great terms, it's still hard to
Yeah.
to go under contract on something.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like trying to find anything that's pre-market or off-market. So like kind of going back to direct mail or direct to seller. I have a buyer looking for your exact home. Have you considered selling? And then revisiting maybe like lukewarm leads from last year or, people haven't circled back with in a while to see, is it that time and
Right.
can I connect you directly before, it gets to that feeding frenzy of the market. It's just
Lead in the water.
Yeah.
We've also been looking through the withdrawns to see if something has gone under contract, maybe it fell through for an inspection, seller's doing repairs, and the buyer would be willing to
Take on
Work
some of
to
that.
work
yeah,
with it back
and we
on.
just had
That's
a
a
client
great idea.
buy in Oakley where the house was withdrawn for a sewer repair, and they're willing to sell it off market, be done with it. They did the repair, wrote it into the contract, and it was like right in the heart of Oakley.
Perfect.
That's
So-
great, Katie.
I think it's
So
just,
that's an option.
no, that's super creative. I feel like that's kind of what you have to do, is just be extra creative right now because it's really difficult.
Yeah. It's also hard with quantity. Like, how many clients can you take on at once?
Right.
Because I feel like each situation's requiring more effort, more attention.
Drive time.
Yeah, drive time especially. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just being
Spontaneous drive time because
Yes.
the market house just came up an hour ago and we need to see it today within the next hour and a half.
intentional. What do you guys do about clients that want to see the same house? Because inventory is so low. I don't have a whole lot of that.
Like they've seen it one time prior and they're looking back.
No,
at
like
You have
a
two
house come up
clients.
and you have
Oh.
two clients call you and say, I want to see 1, 2, 3.
I will show both clients, and I don't believe it becomes an issue unless one or both of them want to write. And at that point, I think I have to kind of, like, if both of them were to want to write, I would have to disclose, like, hey, I do have another client writing on this. I can't guide you too much, but like, just put in your best offer and kind of go that way.
There's a contemporaneous order offer form. You guys seen that? Like where it's the notice that you provide to the second client that writes, essentially. Yeah.
That's saying they're aware you've already written on that property.
Yeah, that you've given them
I
notice.
did not know that.
Yeah. But it is.
I haven't had.
But it is. I mean, it's crazy out there.
Yeah.
I think being honest again though is your best bet there. Like, I can't tell you what the other client wanted or what they wrote in there, but I can tell you to write your best and we can cross our fingers.
Yeah.
I haven't had that issue yet, but what's nice about our team is if like I ever feel like I'm getting a little too crossing paths, a little bit bleeding, I'll say, I can have you just write up an offer. I'll write up whatever you tell me, or you can talk to my coworker, Mike,
Yeah.
he'll tell you what his thoughts are and he can write it up, or I can write up what you guys talk about, whatever is easiest.
That is
Just
nice.
Just to take away the gray space.
yeah. So there's no blurred lines. And then I feel like I can actually have a conversation with one of the parties versus the other. So I'm not kind of feeling like, just tell
Yeah.
me what you like, what would want me to fill in the box, which is nice, but it's still
Sticky
stressful. Yeah, it's still
situation.
sticky and stressful.
So
Oh, and I was like going back to, how many clients can you take on? It was interesting. We had a buyer consult a couple days ago, and she asked us how many buyers we were actively working with. And we're kind of like, how do we, like they're all, varying ranges of, motivation, and some are investors, some are, so we're like, is she looking for more or less? Like what,
Yeah.
because it is so demanding right now working with buyers, like is less the better answer? It was.
Did you end up like picking her brain on what answer she like was looking for?
We didn't. I mean, we were just honest with,
yeah.
we have a range of, clients that need to move before the fall, but then we have investors that would buy something if something came up. So it is what it
around it.
Yeah, it's a hard question to answer because people are in all different phases of
Yeah.
how do you define an active buyer? And, how does she define them?
Right, right. Exactly. So it was an interesting question that I've never gotten before, actually. So,
I think what you just said about buying before fall is like really interesting in our industry. For most people, when the summer comes around, that's when you start vacationing and you take a load off, and a lot of people's workload seems lighter. And for us, it like ramps up because, I have several clients that are like teachers and they have like a very tight window where they need to make their transition. It's just like, that's when we get like berated, but we still have kids home from school and changes to the schedule that happened for everyone in the summer. I have a vacation planned with family this weekend, so I am literally just like scrambling to put things in place. So I just think it's interesting how like we ramp up as everyone else is kind of
Yeah.
like chilling out.
You always work when they don't.
Yeah.
It's kind of a different, you're always on the reverse.
Yeah.
They're taking a pool day, so aren't you? You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
got to be ready.
What do you guys have scheduled for your kids for the summer? Does their care schedule change at all right now?
Ours really doesn't, honestly, because our oldest was in kindergarten. He's going to first grade in the fall, so he's in a summer camp, a full day, like school age summer camp. So all three of our kids are in daycare, and
Yeah.
they have like the set schedule, which I kind of need like for my own
Sanity.
you know, just to know like, okay, they're getting dropped off at this time and they're getting picked up at this time. So we're pretty fortunate to have found that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in daycare, pending if he's sick or not.
Right.
But
Yeah.
luckily we have family to kind of either pick up the slack or he comes with me for the day.
I have like the opposite thing going on. We had just found our structure, I think, kind of second half of like the school year. Our oldest was in his first year of preschool, 3 days a week, half days, which like the preschool thing is a whole different conversation. I would love to get into. I did not realize that it was going to be like getting your kid into it like an Ivy League school. Like,
Oh, it's insanity.
It's competitive. My husband sat in like 8-degree weather at 4:30 in the morning to get in line to drop off our registration packet for a preschool because
Wow.
it's like that competitive. So just getting in was stressful, and then we got used to like the 3-hour half day preschool window, which doesn't really. I mean, I don't know how that makes sense for anyone. By the time you're dropping them off, you might
You're
get
turning around.
like one appointment in,
Yeah.
and then you're back. So we found something that was kind of like partial afternoon care, like half day for him and full day for the baby. Finally got that all figured out, and then it's like summertime. So and we had a part-time caregiver that decided to stop watching kids, like right at the beginning of the summer. Yeah, to stay at home with her own family. And so we're kind of back to square one. We're like piecing it together. The 3-year-old's in a summer camp this week. I have a sitter at my house right now that's more of like a college student who's off for the summer, and we're just making it work.
Yeah.
So any nannies, caregivers in the Cincinnati area?
Hit me up.
Or 2 cute little boys? Hit up Kate.
I am just a shit show. Like, as far as structure goes, it was honestly my fault because I did let her come with me for so long. But I did start the past few months, 2 days a week. One of my like really good friends takes her. I pay her. And then 1 day a week, my mother-in-law keeps her. And then my mom will take her overnight, like usually every other weekend at some point.
Oh, that's nice.
Which those ones are the ones that I'm like, yeah, some sleep. But yeah, the no school for the older one, I think that isn't even as hard. It just comes with like guilt for me. Like when he's off, I like feel bad being like, okay, go sit and with a babysitter, and like I'm like, I could just go work at the pool, like let him play. But then I end up sometimes not getting any work done.
Yeah.
So I think I should probably get on the bus of some structure with you guys.
I don't know if it's structure. It's just
Nanny Shares in the Cincinnati area.
Those are
Please
amazing.
let us know.
Yeah. We did have a great experience with a Nanny Share and one not so great experience. So quit with no notice. And I was like, okay, here we go.
scary.
We've got, it was like a Friday, and she's like, it's too much for me. I'm done. Because it was like 4 kids at this, and I'm like, yeah, that's a lot.
Did you
know,
rotate
a lot of
houses
energy.
for that, or was it one house?
It was always at our house for that one, but then the other one we did rotate. So
I just think this is kind of trial and error for us, but we've always done like someone else, like in home at someone else's home. And I like the idea of losing that commute on either end of our day to drop them and pick them up. But then I think if I'm remote and my husband's remote and we're trying to work in our home offices and our kids are there anywhere in the house, that's not
That's
going to
game
work.
over.
yeah.
But I don't know, maybe people do it well, you know? Maybe you just have them like get outside or, go to the park. I
yeah.
don't
Like,
know.
would it be distracting if you could hear them like crying out for
Right.
something,
Or
and
just-
you'd probably stop work and
Yeah, feeling the need to step in if they're not going down for the nap or,
Or they know you're there.
Right.
So they're like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's hard. We had when my girls were little, we had like the best situation. One of their or daycare instructors left to do her own company, her own daycare. So in that in-between time, she would come and get the girls, and then they'd stay at her house, and then I just had to pick them up at night. It was like, and they had the best time. Like, they would come home and they'd have all their picture books of being at the zoo or being at Sharon Woods or whatever. I mean, it was just like, I want to go to Penny's house. I want to go to Penny's house too. So yeah, and then she had a couple other kids there too. So kind of the early version of a Nanny Share, but it was great. She was a lifesaver. We could not have made it through their younger.
Yeah.
There would have been someone on the news. From taking, it would not have been
It's
okay.
hard to find and figure out how to occupy their time during the day. I mean, Mac is only 1, so he's just now like waddling around like a little drunk man in the best way. It's so fun to watch him. He looks like E.T. when he's walking, like when he's holding his hands, so cute. But he's had hand, foot, and mouth this past weekend, so like keeping him busy while he's, he was irritable, but keeping him busy for those 4 days, and now he's with my parents right now because daycare, he goes back tomorrow. But I'm like, I don't know how some stay-at-home moms do it all day long to keep. I'm like, I'm doing everything. We went to PetSmart this morning. We went to the free aquarium, and we were walking around there for like 30 to 45 minutes. But I mean, like, oh my gosh, the days are long in the summer. I think that's kind of what it is.
An hour. So.
Yeah.
The free aquarium.
Hilarious. That is such
Oh
a good
yeah,
idea.
we saw the fish, we saw the birds, the ferrets. He played with dog toys for like 30 minutes. It was great.
It's amazing.
That's a good idea.
How do people get their kids a fish? Isn't that like just a recipe for disaster? It always ends.
Ours
poorly.
always died really quickly. Lots of flushing.
Yeah.
I said no fish, no reptiles. Like, I don't care how bad you want one. Not happening.
Yeah, my friend's kids have a bearded dragon, and it freaks me out.
I love those things.
Team dog.
I don't like gerbils or like rodents. Reptiles I can do though.
So funny. That's so funny.
Yeah, the rodent thing's weird too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Team. He could have 7 dogs if he wants them, but no snakes.
No snakes.
You just brought up the hand, foot, mouth thing, which I keep hearing like it's going through like all the daycares and whatever else. It seems like it's everywhere. I don't know what I expected, but I thought that my kids were going to be sick like in the winter months when everyone gets sick. It is constant. It's just like a revolving door of snot and like random bumps and rashes. I feel like I use my like pediatrician portal like as much as my email. It is so crazy. Do you guys have the same thing going on?
Oh yeah. Constantly sick. And we just all pass it around to each other.
Yeah.
At one point, we're all on antibiotics, all 5 of us.
By the time the last one's healthy, the first one's sick again. Yeah.
Starting over.
Something brand new and fresh.
Yeah, we just got to the point of like giving up on trying to keep them separated when they're sick. I mean, it's literally like,
Oh, yeah, forget it.
You try to do that, and then they're just like mouth to mouth, tumbling across the floor. It's just impossible.
That's
We used
funny.
to be weird, like when the older one would come home from school and like he would like want to play with the baby. I'm like, don't get too close to her face. Like I don't want her to get sick. And now I'll look over and they're like, duh, 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 like in each other's faces, and I'm like,
Oh,
Here we are.
do your thing then.
Daycare has brought home everything for us. I mean, and I think it's honestly, it sounds bad, but I think it's affected me more than it's affected him. Like I've had the stomach bug. This was prior to me knowing I was pregnant, but I had the stomach bug 3 times in like a month and a half. It was that I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
But then
Like a little petri dish.
he just
have nothing left.
Yeah, oh my gosh, it's terrible. But then I was like, we just keep the nose Frida out and
Yeah.
keep trucking.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Did anyone else have kids in daycare during COVID?
No.
No? Okay. That was a whole nother
Bet.
ball game because
Can't even imagine.
We had
would get like
preschool.
a call or an email. What's that?
We had the preschooler.
Preschool?
But we didn't, you guys probably had to like still pay every week and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So someone would like test positive, and then
In the
They,
class.
the whole class would shut down
For a week or-
or 10 days. I can't even remember. It's like I
It was.
blacked
Blocked
that
it out.
out of my memory because it was really hard because it would be like you get a call 10 in the morning, you just dropped them off, someone tested positive, all the kids have to go home. Then we're navigating the real estate market with COVID
Crazy.
and how you show houses, and that was a lot to juggle with kids in daycare, and you're just anxious about COVID anyways.
Right.
Just not knowing. it was just something very new.
Well, and there's some overlap there with like, I have this a lot where it's like, I don't know what I need to like disclose all the time. Like if my kid was sick last week, you know, and the doctor says 24 hours without a fever or whatever, and you have like a play date scheduled or a birthday party, like, do I bring my kid to that? I always find myself in this like kind of like gray area of like, am I making the right call? But especially with schedule, like we had to call off all last week to deal with the sickness. I need to get back to work. They need to get back to their schedule. And it's like this kind of like guilt tug all the time of like, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
And as long as no one dies, I think,
Yeah.
I think it's all going to be okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But that is hard. Like when someone's sick, it's like player down, and you've got to reshuffle all of your whole workload. And I think it's just giving yourself some grace to know that, yeah, I was supposed to get X, Y, and Z done, but that'll have to happen next week.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
kind of a thing.
And I've become a lot more open with clients or even co-ops. Like, I have a sick kid at home today. You
Yeah.
might hear them in the background, and I'll do what I can. But, you know, this is where we are
Right.
today, you know? So, yeah.
I'd rather hear that from a co-op. Like
Than
if they
hear crickets.
Yeah, than not hear anything at all.
Yeah, like there's a reason I haven't responded, you know, within 30 minutes or, you know, whatever it may be.
Right.
So, yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense. It really does.
Yeah.
Has anybody, going back to like multiple offers, I know a lot of people are getting really creative with how they're writing their offers, like with fun little touches. Has anything worked for your clients to win the multiple offers that wasn't the obvious of appraisal gaps, inspections, anything like that?
I've seen two situations where sellers wanted to occupy after close, but not pay, not have any sort of agreement or finding. And I had never seen that before. Someone that would be willing to like buy a house and just basically pay for, you know, the seller to continue to live there. Sometimes, I mean, one of them was for three additional months.
Wow.
3 months.
That's
One
long.
was 1 month and one was 90 days.
I can see like 2 weeks, but
Yeah.
I had one last year that was, I think, 3 months. And they didn't, you know.
Get anything out
Yeah,
of it.
and I represented the seller. But yeah, it was just a hot market, you know, not as competitive as today probably, but yeah, it was like 90 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had clients, like I think it was in December, right in one like what was it? They have like season tickets to the Bengals, and they literally said if you win, like you can take these tickets on these days. And I was like, oh my god,
Did it work?
it worked. I mean, that is not all they had to put into
Right,
it, but
right.
I think it maybe was the cherry on top. And
Yeah.
I was just like,
Oh, that's funny.
I called Doug. I was like, "Am I allowed to do this?" And he was like, "All's fair in love and war." And I was like, "All right, let's go."
But are there restrictions to what you can offer?
I'm sure there are. I don't know what all of them might be, but you know,
Like you can stay in my house in Florida at the beach if you like. Can you offer anything?
you know what? I have never actually been asked that question. I suspect that there are
Some type.
some
Really
form of
binding.
boundaries. I'm sure if there's financing involved, that's a whole nother issue. But
Yeah.
if it's a cash transaction,
Yeah.
and buyer and seller agree and everything's disclosed, I don't know. I guess the sky's kind of probably the limit.
I've also seen people write or like offer like bottles of bourbon.
Oh, geez.
Like,
I was going to say, I've had clients
get me.
write sellers. I've had clients write sellers like letters that tug at their heartstrings. And if like we were through the house and they saw they had a big bourbon collection, like offer like
A
this-
bottle.
Yeah, this bottle of Pappy's is yours or something like that. But like
Pappy's.
kind of as like, you know, please have pity on us.
it's like
Yeah.
at this point, please
Yeah.
just pick us.
But
Yeah.
I was just curious if there's anything that has won for your buyers recently that I can help some of mine out.
Just
for.
insane amounts of money.
Yeah.
All of the
Doesn't
money.
everybody have, you know, $500,000 cash just to be thrown at properties these days? Is that not the case?
Are you guys seeing issues with appraisals yet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I was, and now it's like back to the regularly scheduled programming of like anything goes.
I think it really does depend on who the appraiser is, which is
Yeah.
frustrating because I think you have some folks that are very attuned with the fact that this is just where the new market is. And because there hasn't been a cash transaction closed that's established, that doesn't mean that's not what the new market is. I mean, what is an appraisal? It should be a reflection of what an arm's length transaction where buyer and seller get together.
Yes.
I've
There are
had
multiple
appraisers
offers that
call
are
me.
$50,000 above ask, and that should
Right.
be.
Yeah.
Like
Reflected.
market justifies
Yeah.
what value is.
I wish we could show appraisers like, look, we had these 6 offers.
They'll ask. I've had appraisers call me and say, "Were you in multiple offers?" And
Yeah.
I was like, "Yes." He said, "Can you provide receipt of that?" And I was like, "Sure."
Yeah.
Always,
Praised us where we were at.
yeah. As the listing agent, I try to provide that information. You know, I'm sure you guys do something similar
Yeah.
with the appraisal packet and just like the front, you know, the cross everything out.
Right.
We had 3 offers, 20 over, whatever it is.
Right.
And then, you know,
Right. Yeah.
that should help.
I do think they need to be guided as much as possible because and it is hard though. We had one earlier this year that we did not appraise, and I couldn't find anything. I'm like, I get it. I can't, there's nothing.
To justify.
There's nothing to justify this right now. There will be, but
Were you able to save it, or did they pull?
I mean, it went together, but everyone had to
chip in.
Cough it up.
cough it
up a
up.
little
Yeah.
bit.
Everyone did.
Everybody.
Yeah.
You know what's
Yeah.
funny to me is that you just said like, other than the normal stuff like waiving inspections, that gives me so much anxiety. Like
Oh, I don't condone it. It's
Right.
just like so common
But
practice
it's
now
so
that
common,
it's,
and so like sometimes buyers will be like, my brother told me I should waive my inspection, and I'm
geez.
like, I cannot ever recommend that. Like I
Ever.
would feel so bad.
and please sign this form that
Yeah.
states that I recommend that you get
Yeah.
one.
Exactly.
Yes, it's so
Yeah.
scary.
I feel so bad if like a client buys a house and then, 6 months later their water heater goes
Yeah.
out and they don't have a home warranty. I feel bad. And I'm like, we did all the due diligence that we
Right.
should have done, but like, I can't imagine how I would feel if they called me and they're like, our house is sliding down the hill because
Yeah.
we never had a home inspection. Like I would be,
Well,
not worth
and
it.
especially in a world like, especially for me working with a lot of, investors and knowing what's on the market from like the new investor flips and like new construction not always being quality. There's so many
Sure.
people getting into the game that don't really know what they're doing.
Right.
So it's like it might have a new face on it, but like you have no idea the
Right.
quality of craftsmanship. So it's really scary.
Yeah.
Like a brand new shower could be leaking next week, through
Right.
your kitchen ceiling.
I think we've had that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even like for informational purposes only, you're still committing to buying the house regardless of what's found in the inspection.
Knowing that it's going to fall down the hill.
You could have, I mean, you can't make anyone buy a house, but like per the contract, correct me if I'm wrong,
Well,
Sarah.
it is
but-
per the contract, and it's amazing. It's very interesting to me how few people understand what the contract says when it comes to that. It's like, no, if it's for informational purposes, is it a contingency? Is it not a contingency? It's, you know what I mean? It's being clear about that. That's why we had those forms created for all the different, because it is, if it were not agreed to for a release, and someone decided they weren't going to buy for informational purposes, I don't know how that would land.
I had a listing agent say to me, because we offered like for informational purposes only, and she was like, why would we accept that? We don't want that. We would rather you come and ask for a problem before you tanked our deal over it and left. And I was like, oh, I guess I didn't think of it on the flip side of that. Like, so
we've accepted, or sellers have accepted offers that have for information purposes only, but I will relay to them, like, hey, we do know that, like, you guys aren't asking for repairs and moving forward, but again, we're still human. So if there is something
Right.
that's massively concerning,
don't just
walk out. Like, we'll have a conversation about it because
Right.
it's going to protect everybody.
I had just never even thought of like the flip side of that until she like was like, why would I do that? And I was like, oh, okay.
I'm trying to help you.
Right? What do you want from me? How do you want this worded?
Kind of on that note, I had a situation recently where we kind of presented like both two different options regarding inspections for the listing agent to say, what do you feel like would be more attractive to your seller? And it was that they'd rather have the opportunity to negotiate than do informational purposes only. But we like cap the repairs, like nothing under $10,000 or something.
Okay.
It was, but yeah, so that was one thing we tried. We're like, this is the way we've been writing it. Let's put the ball in their court, see which,
Let's not make the decision for them.
yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. And it worked.
How do you guys feel about the agents in this market who are like in all caps writing no escalation clauses?
I guess it's a double-edged sword for me. I can see why, because you could have two identical offers that have the exact same escalation, and then you're just kind of,
For tatting?
you're just kind of keep climbing, and it can get confusing not only for you, especially if you have 9 or 10 offers and all have escalations, and it's trying to, make sure that nothing's getting left out, and trying to explain all that to the seller. Like, yes, this offer's at $250, but actually their escalation goes to $310. But then this one, since that goes to $310, this one goes now to $370. Like,
I mean,
it can get
I would sit
confusing.
down and probably have them like
yeah.
evened out before I had that conversation, so they weren't watching the sliding scale. But I think it's just hard. That makes it even harder for us right now. Like, we're
sure.
trying to give you what you want, but we're also trying to protect our buyers and our appraisal.
Yeah, and it's also a question of like, is that the listing agent who's saying that they don't want to deal with
True.
escalations, or is that the
seller, yeah.
Because
That makes a
it
difference.
should be
the seller's decision.
choice,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because they could get more money with
Right.
escalations. But if they just want it simple, it shouldn't be It's interesting because you see the same agents that always have no escalations.
Yeah.
One in particular, every single listing is no escalations. It's like
How
every
are you
single
supposed
seller.
to do it?
Well, they still have to present the offer.
Even if you
to this-
do write an escalation.
Unless the seller has specifically given them the directive that you do not present me an offer that has an escalation.
And
Like,
they've
if they-
probably been advised, you don't want to do this.
Well, you hope
Yeah.
that they've been advised.
But we don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Right.
That
I
leaves
just
it
feel like
back
that's
to
making you
doing
go
what
in
it was.
completely blindfolded, because you're like, I'm willing to give you exactly what you're asking for, but I'm also willing to go up to this. And if not, you're kind of just like, do I go in at ask? Do I shoot in the dark and go 5 over and pray that?
And then be over
That's
leveraged.
it.
That's like your max out. It's not where you want to be.
Right.
It's
It's such a Wild
frustrating.
West out
yeah.
there.
Just tell me what you want.
Literally.
Yeah.
We all start crying.
Long summer.
Yeah. I don't, have you guys come across this where, like with off market deals, it's like, okay, if we go on the market, here's the price. But in order to sell off market, it's going to be $25,000 more. My clients ended up not moving forward because the price was just too high, but they
Yeah.
were going to list it $475. But if they wanted it off market, it was going to be $500.
For the convenience of
The
not
convenience
having
of
to
not
compete.
So
being in multiples. And someone bought it at that price. There
I'm
was
sure they did.
us and one other, buyer that was looking at it. They bought it, and
So for sale by owners or off-market agents are just getting real savvy with it because they know we're desperate out here.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Just taking advantage of the fact that they're for sale by owners and they can kind of work under their own law, I guess. It's
Yeah.
frustrating. It's not
Yeah.
helpful.
well, there was a listing agent.
yeah.
Oh, there was?
in that-
Okay.
Yeah.
So
they're
she just
represented.
knew
Like if this goes
if it
on,
got
it's going to go
listed.
over.
Yeah. I mean, at
So
that
here's
point,
what it
you're
would
doing what's
take.
best for your seller, though, because that probably is realistic.
Yeah.
As long as you're having that conversation with the buyers up front. Mm-hmm. Because I would be so annoyed if I was like going to see an off-market property and she was like 500, and then 2 weeks later I saw it listed at 475. I'd be like,
Yeah.
Girl.
Yeah. She did come back to me and say, just so you know, if you see it,
That's why.
that's fair.
yeah. But might be a strategy for representing your sellers. Like
I
if
was
they
just
want,
thinking.
Right.
yeah, if they want something really simple, but still want to take advantage of
the hot market.
the hot market.
Right. On the selling side, it's great.
Yeah, well, I always try to convince them to list because you're going to have more exposure and you're getting in front of a lot more people. But I guess you could market it off market for a stretch at like your kind of whisper price or dream price. And then if you don't get it, then back off and list it. Maybe
Yeah.
it goes back up, or maybe you sell it exactly where you need to be.
Well, and there's a lot of limitations right now with clear cooperation on what can be done. So that's a whole nother.
Like with off markets
Yeah.
as a whole, to just keep people from inside.
Yeah, I mean,
Marketing
in
it
your
off market.
brokerage and all of that. And I know that some of that's getting reviewed. at
They
this
did
point.
make that rule, though, that we were only allowed to market our off markets to our own brokerage. So
You got anything?
Yeah.
We'll talk off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk off
maybe
mic.
later. Just kidding.
Yeah, no, I just came across that one in particular because I was just calling agents, like the top agents in that neighborhood, and happened to come across it. And
You are full of great ideas today.
Well, I need some of them to work
Always.
first, but
Like you're doing just
something's
great.
got to stick, right?
Yeah, right.
Eventually.
That reminds me of like one of my biggest pet peeves about just like the industry in general is like people only respond, like if they respond, they only respond to text, it seems like. Like, what is the problem with picking up the phone?
I don't
It's
know.
so much easier to just talk through it.
In 3 minutes.
Yeah.
If I can pick up the phone with my 1-year-old on my hip and wrangling another kid somewhere, you can, I promise, no matter what you're doing, you can also pick up said phone.
Yeah.
A lot, I think, gets lost in translation when there's no when there's no tonality, there's no nothing. You know, it's that old thing of, I didn't say Bill stole the gun. I didn't say Bill stole the gun. You know, like wherever you put the emphasis. I mean, you just miss so much. And I think especially when you're representing a client in a competitive market, it's just, you've got to call. You have to go voice to voice.
And I also think in a competitive market, like if I call a listing agent and say, hey, I just scheduled an appointment, I just wanted to call and see if there's anything outside of, what's included in the listing that they might want to know. Why are they selling? Any background information. It's just like establishing that rapport and to have and say, like, again, this is Kate Seifring with Keller Williams Advisors, like, remember my name because I'm going to send you an offer. It's just
Remember
like
how nice I am?
it's that first touch.
Yeah.
Right?
You always follow up with the like, okay, I'll get you some review or some feedback either way. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. It makes a difference.
It does make
It
a
does.
difference.
Yeah.
It does. It's your co-ops are your best friends.
And
I
it's
think,
even better when the co-op answers the phone and has a conversation with you.
yep.
Gasp.
Well, it's the
Get
thing
things
is,
done.
I think, at least I've experienced, I'm sure you guys have too, where it is so contentious. And it's like, no, we both want the same thing. Neither of us really get paid until this thing closes, so let's get along.
Work together.
Yeah. And I swear it will be the very next time. It's like, this is a tiny sandbox. It's like, be nice,
Make friends.
even if they're a jerk. Don't say what you're thinking. Call a friend and vent. But it's like, because that person will be on the other side of the next deal that you have, and you'll need their help. Just like, just be nice. Just be nice,
Well, and
please.
to that, also people bashing their clients is so
Yeah.
weird.
Oh, it's terrible.
Oh my gosh, like this
That-
person's a psychopath. I'm just going to let you know. I'm like, well, why are
okay.
you working with
Right.
them?
And why does that make me want to
Also,
tell
it's
my
very much
client? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's not
It is
okay.
interesting when you do call a co-op and you're just trying to get like, hey, does seller need occupancy? Like you're just trying to get a feel as to what situation is. So when you do offer, you can kind of submit your best foot forward. And then they just dive in and tell you everything and all the things, which is great.
Yeah.
Because then you know. And then you have some that like that. And it's like, that's not helpful for anybody.
Yeah.
Yep.
It makes me a little weary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody wins.
No.
Well, it'll be an interesting few months, I think.
Yeah.
For sure.
We're still at the start, aren't we? It feels like
Honestly.
it's not even hot yet.
I think the first day of
Warming
summer
up,
is
heating
tomorrow.
up.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Really?
Summer solstice is
So
tomorrow.
it really isn't actually summer yet then.
Yeah.
we go.
Sheesh. It's already been
up.
in the 90s.
That's all good. Good stuff. All right. Anything else we think on these summer months coming up?
Godspeed.
Yeah. And hold on to your butt.
Take a vacation.
Yeah.
A real
Yeah,
vacation.
Take one. Nannies in the Cincinnati area.
Please reach out.
Testing 1 2 1 2.
That's awesome. All right. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.